A lot going on here. Let us inform and entertain then. He's heard around the nation via the Talk Radio Network. Also authored the book, Have You Seen My Country Lately? America's Wake-Up Call. Let's go round the dial, and a pleasure to welcome Jerry Doyle back to MidPoint. Jerry, thanks so much for being here.
Ed, good to be back with you.
Let's go ahead and start right out with the president here. A policy reversal, it would seem, because now we have airstrikes getting ready in Iraq, we have humanitarian aid, and there are those people saying, Mr. President, we told you so.
I guess it gets to a point, Ed, where the obvious is what the obvious is, and you don't have any wiggle room to do anything other than what you have to do, and what we are doing in Iraq is the right thing. In my opinion, the only terrorist that's of worth anything is a dead terrorist. And I say we kill them all and let God or Allah sort them out. This is something that we should have been doing a long time ago. I'm glad the F-18s are going in. I'm glad that we're taking out the targets. It's unfortunate that we left about $600 million worth of equipment in Iraq and $6 billion in Afghanistan. So it seems as if the terrorists are repurposing a lot of what it is we left behind. And the only message you can send to a terrorist is, we will kill you. This is a psychological game. They can't beat us straight up. Nobody on this planet can beat our military straight up. But when they can get into your head and they can play the psychological game, the perception becomes the reality. The reality is they don't stand a chance. The perception is they think they have a chance.
Jerry, when did we as a nation allow that perception to become reality? Because it would seem to permeate every corner of the United States right now that these are things we cannot do. And I'm sure that you hear this from people as well. They'll say, as soon as you start talking about killing everybody, letting God sorting them out, we're not doing the humanitarian thing.
It's kind of like we've lost our mojo. You know, we need like a collective share moment in that movie Moonstruck when she smacked him and said, snap out of it. We've gotten soft. We grade in purple instead of red. Kids aren't left back, they're retained. We don't play dodgeball because someone might get hurt. We don't play tag because someone might be it. We've just gotten soft, and I think this is the manifestation of all of this 60s radical collectivist, socialist, redistributionist nonsense that went from Brooks Brothers and Birkenstocks to Brooks Brothers. You put on a suit and tie and you look like you're an adult, but you're still really the same reject hippie you were in the 60s. It's in billboards, it's in magazines, it's in newspapers, it's in TV shows, it's in radio, it's everywhere, and we have just gotten soft as a nation. We really don't understand anymore what right and wrong is. We make excuses, and it's not working for us as a nation in every aspect of our lives, domestically and internationally.
I know that you're friends with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, who's a good friend of this show as well, also appeared here earlier today, and he is one of those guys who basically continues to point out that maybe we need to listen to the military a little more. Maybe you need to start thinking a little bit more about these things. He's the guy, and Jerry, it seems no matter who I talk to, no matter how many people I talk to who are strategists who understand the military, they will tell you, sometimes you got to let the military do their job. You have to trust them a little bit to know these are the bad guys and we have to take them out and stop playing politics.
You kill bad guys and you blow stuff up. That's what you do. I was at the United Nations a few years back, and I was going into a roundtable meeting with whoever the head of that useless organization is and all of his minions. And I came walking into the meeting with a cup of coffee and a bagel. And I said, hey, great news. Zarqawi's dead. And they're all looking at each other like, Zarqawi's dead. I said, Zarqawi, one of the top 3 terrorists in the world, is dead, courtesy of 2 500-pounders from the United States Air Force dropped on his not-so-safe safe house. Now that's good news, but they all looked at each other like, is that good news? Is that they were looking for consensus? They were trying to figure out whether a dead terrorist was good. And I looked at that room and I said, I really don't need to be here anymore. You people are obviously as clueless as they come.
I will say this much, that I think both you and I will not be allowed any free access to the United Nations, even on the tour anytime soon, judging by what you said and certainly some of the things that I've said from time to time about that organization. Let's go ahead and spin back home here to the Ebola crisis. And again, here's the words, crisis, panic. I've said over and over again here on this show, I editorialized about it earlier in the week. Panic's the wrong word. Stop panic. We don't need that right now. But we do have a population right now that seems to be being driven towards it, maybe because, as a previous guest said on the show, the CDC is one of those organizations that rarely seems to know what it's doing.
On the radio show, we nicknamed the plane that brought the 2 Americans to this country the Ebola Gay. Much like the Enola Gay dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, this Gulf Stream 3 dropped the Ebola bomb on America. One of your previous guests was talking about how we can have all these new treatments, experimental treatments, and do all this stuff. There's not much you can do for people that have Ebola. All you can do is give them fluids, make them as comfortable as possible. That can be done over there, but we brought them over here. Why? Who paid for that flight? Who brought those Americans to the United States? And why did they go to Emory University and not to the Slammer, the Level 4 quarantine facility at Fort Detrick, Maryland? I'll tell you why they're at Emory, because the CDC is 2 blocks away. And I think that this is merely an effort by our government to test our system to see if we're capable of handling an outbreak of Ebola. And I don't think that we should make this nation into a giant nation of guinea pigs to see if we can contain Ebola.
Are we ready to handle it then? It would seem not in many eyes.
Well, there's no cure. There's no vaccine. But it's interesting that all of a sudden we're starting to hear about these companies that have these drugs that are ready to go. And I don't know if this is the same thing where overnight we became an obese nation and lo and behold, a pill that was rejected 2 years ago by the FDA is now approved by the FDA. I'm not so sure if there aren't a couple of pharmaceutical companies that are sitting in the wings saying, when the fear factor gets just high enough, guess what? We have a vaccine or we have a pill that'll help protect you from Ebola. If you follow the money in this country these days, unfortunately, this is the most bought and paid for government that we've ever seen. And it's a sad commentary that the crony capitalists have taken over. But if you follow the money, who paid for that jet? Why was it done? Why were they brought here? Why were they brought to Atlanta, not Fort Detrick, Maryland? I think if you follow the money, you'll get some answers on what's actually happening.
Jerry, a couple minutes we got left here. I'm going to turn to something certainly that you will know of, what goes on in Hollywood, but it certainly has to do with what's gone on nationally here and internationally as well. Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz and many others signed a letter where they basically slammed away at Israel. They said some things about the Palestinians and, in essence, Hamas, which some people did not agree with. John Voight certainly spoke out about it and basically said you people should be ashamed of yourself for what you did. This does again speak to what many people believe and really is a very left-leaning Hollywood who would then look at Israel and Hamas and blame the Israelis for what's going on in the Middle East.
Well, a lot of the people in Hollywood wouldn't know a real man if they met one, and Benjamin Netanyahu is certainly one of them. And in the international community today, he's almost a one-off. In the face of domestic and international pressure, he said, I will not relent. I will not let Hamas kill my people. And there were probably times when he was facing that fire hose of criticism that other people might have buckled, but he didn't. He said, I will stop when the job is done. And I think to a lot of people in Hollywood that don't have a backbone, that don't have a spine, that the only thing they follow is what's written for them, I would have to say that their moral compass doesn't point true north.
I got about a minute left here, so let me ask then on a side note here. You mentioned earlier, take these people, kill them. That's what it's all about. Hamas sits there on the other side. They throw missiles at Israel. Would you say the same thing? Get in there, get the job done, do whatever you need to?
Right. And look, if Hamas said, okay, uncle, stop, at that point I'd consider. Maybe I'd have a sandwich, reload the F-18s, go back in and bomb them some more. I would ratchet up the pressure so that they would understand that we're not fooling around, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Egypt, Lebanon, or in the good old US of A. Don't mess with us because we're done playing games.
Seems like people just want to mess with us anymore, don't they, Jerry? It's like a sport to some people around the world.
Yeah, it's a sport we should be winning.
I'll agree with you on that one, and I think you're going to have an awful lot of people agree with you right here as well. Jerry, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Always enjoy the show. Please keep up the great work. We'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, Jerry Doyle joining us here and says things that a lot of people, quite frankly, will agree with. Some will not. That's what it's all about, both sides. Later on this hour, the people being starved out of ISIS and starved out of Iraq by ISIS. Desperate attempt. They need help. It's the subject of News Call. After the break, let us laugh at those we put into political power. Why? Because we can. It is the political punching bag. That and so much more coming up right here on MidPoint.